Salam School, everyone. We're going to have just a short, it's about 10 minutes we were given. We have a guest. Some of you may have actually remembered him. He came a few years ago. His name is Rabbi Weiss. He's actually here speaking at Marquette University. He belongs to the Orthodox Jewish community, a group called the Natura Karta. Many of you obviously hear about, there's this conflict between Muslims and Jews and issues like that, especially regarding the issue of Israel. Well, he actually has appeared at numerous Muslim conventions, and he wants to give his perspective for this part of the Orthodox Jewish community. So it's my pleasure to introduce you, Rabbi Weiss.
With the help of the Almighty, I pray to the Almighty to bestow upon His truth, His wisdom, that I may be worthy of conveying His message and sanctifying His name, and inshallah, hopefully, to bring peace to the world. Salam Alaikum. The time is very short, but with God's help, Almighty will bless me, give this short time, just open a window, a light, and then from there, hopefully that you all, distinguished scholars amongst you, all of you, that you'll be able to follow through and study this subject, and maybe you will see that it's like many other things through the lives of the human beings. There's a lot of mirages, there's tests in this world, and this issue of this conflict is just one of these tests from the Shaitan, from the Satan. Judaism is a religion, as all of you know, and we, as I am a person who practices with God's help my religion, Judaism, and we have been living together with the Muslim people, Muslim communities, and Muslim countries, as practicing God-fearing Jewish people for hundreds and hundreds of years. We've been living together in the Arab countries for thousands of years, and it was actually a home. It was more than just a home. It was a place, the Muslim countries was a place where Jews found a safe haven. The Jewish people were persecuted as many Muslim people. Many of you, or maybe unfortunately all of you, or almost all of you, know of the suffering that Muslim people suffer in many countries because they're persecuted from people of other religions. And we as Jews have suffered really thousands of years, 2,000 years. We were persecuted, threatened, our lives was terminated, the people burnt us at the stake in the Inquisition and the Crusades and in Europe. And there's a little history that I'm sure many of you studied or you will be studying. And Muslim people also were at that time, many of them were murdered because they refused to give up their religion. Now the Jewish people, they were forced to try to force them to convert from the religion, or they were banished from the lands in Europe. And where did they go? It was the Muslim lands that opened their hand, they embraced the Jewish people, they took them in, and we as fervently religious Jewish people for hundreds and hundreds of years had a safe haven, a home to flourish, and we flourished in the Muslim lands. In every single Muslim land, without exclusion. It was really around the world. And it was in Iraq, in Egypt, in Tunisia, and Iran. And wherever you would like, there were Jewish communities. There were no human rights groups. There was no United Nations. And yet it was not necessary at all. On the contrary, the Jewish people were taken in, we flourished, and we lived together, we respected one another, the Muslims and the Jewish people. We helped each other. We lived as neighbors, as friendly neighbors, as the best of friends. And that was our beautiful history, up until a point of around 100 odd years ago, when people who had stopped practicing the Jewish religion, called Zionists, these were people who were following an ideology, a political movement, a political group of people I like to show many, we have many pictures. Well, I'm going to leave pamphlets. You can look at our site, which is NKUSA. You would see how the Jewish community, what it means to be a Jew, a person who's serving God, who's subservient to God, who's practicing the religion that was given to us on Mount Sinai 3,000 years ago. That's all what Judaism means. And up to a point, the Jewish people understood that is what it means to be a Jew. But around 100 odd years ago, a movement started called Zionism, that they were not practicing Jews. I always bring a lot of pictures, but I bring a picture of the first Congress of the Zionists, of Ben-Gurion, who was the first prime minister, and I bring a picture, here it's hard for you to see, but you can get it, you'll study, look at it, you can Google it, or how it works, and you can find, you'll see that these were people who went with their heads uncovered, shaved, no symbol of religion at all. In fact, they detested the religion. But they carried the name Jew, and because they were born from Jewish parents, and they wanted ersatz Judaism, a different type of thing of Judaism. Instead of being subservient to God, a nationalism. They're going to have, but they don't want to be looked at as second-class citizens. So they're going to make a land, they're going to have an army, they're going to have Nobel Prize winners, Olympic team, and all the trappings of a nation. That is what meant to them to be a Jew, which is of course totally a rebellion against God, because Judaism means to be subservient to God, to serve God, not to steal, not to kill, to keep our laws, keep Sabbath, eat kosher, which is like halal, or so forth, do all the laws that it says in the Bible, in the Old Testament. So what they did, when they did this, all the rabbinical authorities in Europe, this movement started in Europe, in Austria, mainly in the Herzl, and the leaders started mainly in that area, and they came along and they just started to create this new ersatz Judaism, this new Judaism, this nationalism. All the rabbinical authorities in Europe carry books with us. We have the rabbis speak out, showing that all the rabbis around the world, just maybe a few left out, stood up and vociferous, vocally, and ostracized these people. They said these people are haram, they're not acceptable. What are they doing here? This is not Judaism, it's a nationalism. It could be Buddhist Judaism called or something. It has nothing to do with religion. It's nothing to do with, in other words to say, it's ridiculous. It's not a Jewish religion. Anyway, but they went ahead and they made this movement. And the works of Satan, that there were many Jews who unfortunately, maybe because they were thrown out of their lands and they didn't have leaders, they were persecuted in many lands. So there was a lot of people who were not practicing the religion, and they started hanging on to this movement, and it became very popular because they used all types of PR, public relations, and that type of concept. In other words, to make it popular, we're going to have an army instead of people spitting at us, and I'm sure you all know what it means when people make fun of a person because of their religion. So they said, we're not going to be looked down upon again, we're going to have a land. So they decided to make a nation, but unfortunately, they decided to make it in Palestine. Why in Palestine? Because the Bible is full of that God gave us the land. And although according to the Jewish religion, it's very clear that since 2,000 years ago, since the destruction of the temple, we are forbidden. It is expressly forbidden for Jews to recreate our own nationalism. We believe that one day, similar to what the Muslims believe, that one day there will be, God will reveal His glory, and when that, there will be a Messiah, a Mashiach, and at that time, all the nations will serve God in harmony. We don't believe everybody will become Jewish. It's totally not our belief. But everybody will recognize that there's one God. We will all join arms, join hands, and we will come up and serve God in harmony, and God will create a temple. Obviously, we have a different belief than the Muslim people what the future will be. But one thing is certain, we all believe that there's one God and that we have to serve Him. We believe at the end of time there will be a revelation of God, and that's what we hope and yearn for. But till that day comes, we are forbidden to stand up and recreate a Jewish nationalism. Then either it's not going to be that we're going to make our nation. We believe that God will bring us together, the Jewish people, and it will be only through God, without any human intervention. But to go and make a Jewish nation, that's totally a rebellion against God. All the rabbinical authorities, the very religious communities around the world have stood up and opposed it. in Jerusalem, we have many pictures of Jews demonstrating from day one when the Zionists came along. They decided to go to Palestine because, like I say, in the Bible, it speaks how God gave us the land, and they knew they'll be able to tell the world, oh, this is what God gave us, and they'll be able to get Jews who are not affiliated, who don't know their religion, who will support them. They'll get the Christians who also believe in, that the Jews should be in Israel. They're going to give them, they're going to help them, so they're going to support them. And unfortunately, that's the way it was. They got a lot of support from the evangelists, the Christians, and from the non-affiliated Jews. Opposed to that, the very religious, whether it is in Jerusalem, whether it is in New York, around the world, they all stood from day one in opposition. In the United Nations documents, we have, it's in their documents, how the chief rabbi of Palestine, nothing to be confused with the Israeli rabbinate or their chief rabbi, because that's their window dressing for their organization, for their state. But the representatives of the very religious community, that was them. And it still exists till today. In Jerusalem, stood up and pleaded with the United Nations and said, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. That was the chief rabbi. And we still have today, we have a chief rabbi. He passed on, we have chief rabbis, we have rabbis. They stand up in Palestine and they demonstrate right now in Sheikh Jarrah. Of course, maybe everybody's hearing that's the latest link in the chain of sorrow of the Nakba that's going on. How the Zionists come, and some of them even wear yarmulkes, kippahs, and beards. They're part of the Zionist movement. But the mainstream, the very religious Jews, invariably, I'm coming from New York, we have the largest Jewish community right across Manhattan. Everybody can come see it. There's not one Israeli flag, because we stand up together with our brothers and sisters in Palestine. In the hundreds of thousands, they get brutally beaten. The Jewish people get brutally beaten in Palestine because they stand up daily that we say that we do not accept the existence of the occupation, of the existence of the state of Israel, because it's a political rebellion against God. It has nothing to do with religion to be subservient to God. We are religion, and we are taught that we have to be not only friendly and helpful for the Palestinian people and the Arab people, we have to show gratitude because it was the Muslim countries that saved us throughout the year. Now my time is up, but I just want you to know that we cry and suffer and feel with the Palestinian people. We pray to God every day for the total ending, peaceful, God should help, of the occupation of Palestine, and we are standing with the Palestinians. We always go demonstrating together in Jerusalem. The mainstream media doesn't show all of this because it doesn't go fly well with their narrative, but this is the truth. And with God's help, God's glory will be revealed throughout the world, and God's help, we will be successful. We urge everybody to pray to God to bring a speedy and, God help, peaceful end of the occupation in its entirety, and we'll once again live together in peace and harmony throughout the world. And Salam Alaikum.
I want to thank Rabbi Weiss for coming here and for speaking. As Muslims here in the United States, we know discrimination and hatred and xenophobia. And Jews have experienced that, and as he said, especially in European countries, there was the blood libel against Jews, there was the Holocaust against Jews. Alhamdulillah, this is not something that ever took place in a Muslim country. We are proud of our relationship with the Jewish community and historically with how Jews actually lived under Muslim rule, where there was even a golden age of Judaism said to have existed while they were living under Muslim rule. That doesn't mean that we support what is going on, obviously, in Palestine. It is not individuals like Rabbi Weiss. They are individuals who have a political agenda, who don't care about human rights, who don't care about what's in the Torah or what's in the Quran or what's in any book. They basically feel that they want to have a political state at the expense of the people who are living there by kicking them out, by oppressing them and continuing to occupy them. So I want to thank again Rabbi Weiss for coming here today, and I can firmly support his group and what they do, and you will see them at every convention, supporting the rights of the people to true justice. Thank you, Rabbi. some things that if anyone wants to read some more stuff, they're going to give some of that, I think, to.
I have only one copy.
Yeah, but we'll distribute some. He has something back, and we'll distribute to whoever's interested. I know you guys want to hurry up and get to class.
You're usually, okay, I'm talking, you're not.